As expected, Hannah greeted them with a bright smile. I should have bought something because it's a festival. I'm sorry I didn't think of that, Presepe said, but Hannah shook her head and said it wasn't necessary. You bought flowers, didn't you, Mrs.? Then, with a cheerful smile, Hannah looked at the wilted flowers that Presepe was carefully carrying. Did you make a wish too? In response to Hannah's question, Presepe nodded sheepishly. Hannah, who had been staring at Presepe, smiled her usual gentle smile, and then, as if sharing a great secret, whispered in her ear. I also wished to step up to the altar while offering flowers one time. My wish has come true, so I'm sure yours will come true as well, Lady Presepe. Wow, really? So what was Hannah hoping for? I never go hungry, I never get hurt, and I live as a human being, like everyone else. Now that I think about it, I realize there's a lot you don't know about Hannah. All she knows is her name, her age, and that she talks a lot. But from those few words, it was easy to guess Hannah's past. I'm so glad your wish came true, Hannah. Instead, she said something else. I don't know what happened to you, but from now on, only good things will happen. Just like you said, your wish has come true. Ms. Her wish, to not feel empty, will also come true. Hearing Hannah's kind words, Presepe smiled warmly. Everything will be all right. I know it seems uncertain and confusing, but that's just part of the process. So, don't be afraid of yourself, like you did before. Now, Lady Presepe, you are not alone. Fenric's words were sincere. Gradually, Presepe began to feel more settled. Most likely, it was a result of having had time that had nothing to do with the game since she escaped the cursed palace. Not having to face these disgusting psychopaths likely played a role as well. It was a worry-free, surprisingly relaxing day. Then came the quiet and peaceful morning. I don't know your tastes very well, but we have all kinds of books, so feel free to search. We have general books, as well as books about monsters and the royal family. Please, read whatever you want. Mrs. Presepe, who had been looking around the vast library with wide eyes, finally turned to Fenric. Sorry, I was busy looking around. Show. This is the first time I have seen a library of this size. Of course, there is a library in the Imperial Palace, but I have never been able to visit it. After finishing breakfast together, Fenric immediately took Presepe to the library. Since the palace was huge, she expected the library to be impressive, but she never imagined it would be this grand. Moreover, there were stories about the royal family. These books must contain stories about the rise of the empire, both large and small events, and the myths and legends that formed the foundation of the kingdom. Hence, there may be information about the broken statue seen in the church. However, there was no reason for Presepe to feel bad about this. And, finally, Fenric's large hand moved to rest on Presepe's thin shoulders. He led her carefully, specifically towards the large table in front of the window. This is the map of Attilia you were looking for, Mrs. As if he had prepared it in advance, there was a very large map spread out on the table, along with 2 cups of hot tea. Such was the area of Attilia, such was the area of the empire. Presepe slowly extended her hand and gently traced the area near the capital, Attilia. When the situation stabilizes a little, then came Fenric's low voice from behind her. Maybe we can visit a place you like, Mrs. Fenric's large, warm hand rested softly on Presepe's small, pale hand. Not necessarily the capital, anywhere you want. With me. Her breathing became irregular, and her cheeks flushed slightly. She felt like she was embraced. Written by Fenric. Please, take your time searching. If there is any place you would like to visit, please feel free to let me know at any time. She was locked in the Imperial Palace all her life. And that life that was nothing but repetition and endless long hours. If they went somewhere together, would she smile at him like she did yesterday? She said she was happy? Could she give him more memories that she wanted to cherish, like today? Can you? A slight smile appeared at the corner of Fenric's mouth. At that moment, Mr. Fenric, suddenly, a voice came from outside the tightly closed door. Come in. Fenric muttered as he turned away from Presepe and looked towards the door. For some reason, I was relieved that Hannah would come. While she was still far away from Fenric, Presepe let out a short breath and thought to herself. It was strange. It was just a simple sentence, but why did her heart suddenly tremble? Why was she trembling? Oh, before Presepe could think further, the door quickly opened after getting permission, revealing Hannah standing there with a worried expression. Huh? Fenric's eyes narrowed slightly. Ah, a surprise message from the Imperial Palace. Imperial Palace? At the unexpected mention of these words, Presepe also turned to look at Hannah. It appears that some progress has been made in the investigation into the murder of Prince Atari and Duke Noah Duverne. Progress? Fenric let out a small laugh of disbelief. Anyway, they sent a message asking you to come to the palace as soon as possible. His Majesty is still ill, so he cannot attend the meeting. They are asking you to go instead. It was a very annoying situation. Maybe they haven't found any real evidence yet. But the fact that the case was connected to the reason Presepe was kept in the palace was certainly connected. Fenric frowned slightly but nodded, indicating that he understood. Then he looked at Presepe. I will be back soon, so feel free to stay here until then. Ah yes, if there is real progress, I will explain everything to you in detail when I get back. Fenric then left with Hannah, leaving Presepe alone in the library. Sitting on the shiny chair, Presepe unconsciously touched her cheek before rubbing her chest in a repetitive motion. That was a surprise. Fenric was always unexpectedly kind and always got close in ways you never expected. It was something new, so she was puzzled, but the strange thing is that she doesn't hate his actions like she does with other male characters. Maybe because I don't think he'll hurt me. After all, he had always protected her. Yes, that might actually be the case. That was why she kept getting closer to him, or at least that was just a vague prediction. Of course, even then, the idea of traveling around Ataluia with him, as Fenric mentioned, would never come true. First, I need to look at the map. She took a sip of the prepared tea and began examining Fenric's map. Atilia's geography was not particularly distinctive. The capital and the imperial palace were located in the center of the empire, and to the north, just above the capital, was a mountain range. This was the road to the Thane Empire, home of Atari. The Thane Empire probably has nothing to do with the real hero. There wasn't anything special about Atari's path either. So, the north didn't matter. The south is the sea, and the east is also a mountain range, and to the west. Forbidden Forest. Now that I think about it, when I went to Zephyr Road. I've heard about this many times. Siegfried, the leader of the knights, had stayed in that area for a long time due to a crusade. Yes, the holy sword or whatever he received from killing dragons in the western region. Does the name of this forest sound familiar due to its experience on Siegfried's way? But there was something abnormal. Siegfried did not mention the Forbidden Forest specifically, but only referred to it as the western region. Furthermore, the Forbidden Forest was only mentioned when explaining Siegfried's background, and there was no particular reason for mentioning it. So why does it sound so familiar? When Presepe tilted her head, she suddenly froze. Presepe. Listen to me carefully. Suddenly, a fleeting memory of her last conversation with her mother passed through her mind. And so, the words her mother said. Could it be related to this forest? With a frowning brow, Presepe desperately tried to recall the memory from the past. But this effort did not last long. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden sound of someone approaching. Is it Fenric? But it seemed like he wasn't supposed to come back yet. Is it possible that he forgot something? My regards. And then a very familiar face appeared. The person you never wanted to see again. Sorry, Chief Magician, but you can't break in like this. Hana, accompanied by some maids and a number of knights that Fenric had left behind, was standing behind him. It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. But anyway, Ivan greeted Presepe casually with a sly smile. And then the dreaded error option appeared. Smack him. Throw tea on him. Kiss him in greeting. This. Looking at the affection meter above his head, Presepe couldn't help but curse. This fucker.